I want to welcome Thalheimer and also Kocayne Givner, who are members of the Local Cultural Council here in Holyoke. And we're going to talk about this is the time of the year for submissions, application, proposals, and
Money, 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 money.
applying for those funds. So, and okay, welcome. Thank you for being here. And what's happening with the Holyoke Local Cultural Council?
Thanks for having us. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it. This is my favorite time of year. This is when the grant cycle is currently open. It's open till October 17th. And basically, if you have a cool idea for something awesome that's going to happen in Holyoke that has public benefit and is kind of related to the arts, humanities, other kinds of things, now's your time to get the money to do it, which is super exciting. We have a larger than usual allocation from the state this year. Holyoke, across the Commonwealth, there are multiple local cultural councils, and it's the funding is done by per capita, and then like the amount changes a little bit each year, but everybody's allocation went up this year. Thank you, elected officials, for helping us do this. And so we actually have 63,000, just over $63,000, it's $63,800 to allocate out for 2023, which is awesome. And so we're hoping to get a lot of applications in for interesting, good, qualified projects happening in Holyoke, benefiting Holyoke folks for 2023. I can't wait. It's like my favorite time because we get this awesome snapshot of all this cool stuff that's, happening in Holyoke, where it's, this event, this thing, that thing. And now that we're kind of slowly rolling back to in-person stuff, we're seeing a lot of incredible events happening in Holyoke again. So I'm pretty excited about that. Coco, you're a little newer to the committee. I've been on the committee for a while, but you've been through the grant cycle a couple of times now.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite part? I know it's not the meetings and Zooming and all that, like,
well, I definitely have been missing our in-person cultural council meetings, but hey, what are you going to do? But I mean, this is a great part of the cycle. We have more people on the arts or on the cultural council this year, which is pretty awesome. We have some new members and everyone's really excited to interact with grantees. So I think this is another great time of year because I actually really always like the informative sessions. And I think if we can get the word out that we're available to answer questions, walk people, not walk people through the process, but answer questions, help people understand, what's okay, what's not okay, and just, be available to point them in the right direction to the links and, help them understand the ins and outs of what we can and we can't fund. It'll be really awesome because there's a lot of new people and they're eager to interact more with the public and spread the good news about what the council has to offer as far as grants. And even coming out of this last cycle, we gave out a lot of monies to great projects because we had so much. I mean, these last couple of times, I feel like we have felt really excited about receiving the funds we have to grant to, anyone applying. So I think people should apply for grants, make sure they have their applications in order. If they don't, they should email or call in or go through the Facebook page and write a message, get their questions answered, because we are doing our best to find new projects and really,
Yeah, and the Massachusetts Cultural Council has done a lot of outreach on this. There was a live broadcast a while back, maybe like a week or two ago, on like, how do I apply for cultural council grant? And that's been archived on their webpage. So that's available. We have a lot of information on our Facebook page, which is just Holyoke Local Cultural Council on Facebook. Different slides and pictures there, like, what does this mean? How do I apply for a grant? And I think it's important to emphasize at this point, like, even though it's an online application, people sometimes hear the word grant and they're like, this is the easiest grant application you're going to write in your life. because there isn't reporting, right? You don't have to go file a 5-page report when it's done saying how you use the money. You basically file receipts. And if you have any money questions, the treasurer will answer them. But it's also pretty straightforward. Like, we're not the flowery language stuff and like beautiful language, like it's nice, but it's not essential. We're looking for interesting projects that fit the qualifications, that are described well and have had some like framework work behind them. Like, one of the things that's really important for projects in Holyoke is that you have a place where it's going to happen.
Right.
Sometimes people will apply and say, well, I'm going to do this thing in Holyoke. Or like, yeah, of course it's going to be.
Okay, where?
Because we're the Holyoke Local Cultural Council. Where in Holyoke? What is your venue? We have a lot of latitude. We know venues close and things change, but like, people need to have an idea of where someplace is going, where the thing is going to happen. And they can include things like letters of support. So if you're doing a program at the public library and the public library sends a letter of support saying, yeah, we talked to this person, we're doing this thing, all the better, all the better. You can apply without it, but it definitely bolsters your application. But again, it doesn't have to be a perfect application. We've had applications with lots of typos. We just want to see an explanation of your concept, where it's going to happen, and roughly how much you think it's going to cost. We're also interested in public benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to see the public benefit. And if you've already done something like this before and you have an outline that you can share in your application, or like an idea of, you know, some people put in almost like a portfolio with links to their website or something, or links to a blog, that's helpful in giving us a visual. But generally, as long as you have the idea, you don't need any experience. You know, you can have a great idea, a venue, you know, support from that venue, and a budget, and as long as it meets the criteria of what we're looking for as far as the grants in Holyoke, then your chances of you know, getting through and getting a little something
there you go, yeah, are pretty good. I mean, when you go look this stuff up on the Massachusetts Cultural Council pages, like each cultural council has their own different, slightly different funding priorities. And in Holyoke, we have a couple of funding priorities. Like, our main thing is making sure that it is a Holyoke benefit, you know, whether that's like Holyoke public school students going on a field trip to a place in Massachusetts, that's public benefit. Or something that's happening in Holyoke that's open to everybody, that has Holyoke benefit. As a cultural council, we personally try to provide some funding to as many qualified projects as we can, but we almost never fully fund single projects, because we also don't want it to be the sole source of funding for projects of a continuing nature. Most of our projects they get partial funding, and it's not a year after year after year kind of thing. We want to support new up and coming projects. We're looking at things that demonstrate a clear public benefit. We're looking to support local artists presenting work in Holyoke, and we try to make funding available to the widest range of community cultural needs possible, like concerts and festivals, and support for community arts and cultural organizations, and arts education in the schools, and projects celebrating diversity. So we're trying really hard to get a little bit of money to as many qualified folks as possible for projects that are public benefit, benefiting Holyoke.
One thing that comes to my mind, especially when we're mentioning the last time we got the chance to be at cultural events, it was 2019, and all of a sudden it feels a little bit strange to think about where can I hold an event, especially if I'm thinking about making it in person, and also noting those remarks about places that are no longer available because of the pandemic. But just to give an idea of the type of projects that still during the pandemic were supported by the Holyoke Local Cultural Council, is there any of those that you can list so the public can have an idea of those projects and ideas that can still apply, even though they may not be held in person, but maybe in a hybrid or still a remote setting?
Yeah, we definitely encourage things that are still like virtual and hybrid. Like that is definitely still something that we consider on our radar. In fact, one of the projects we supported last year was a series of classes held virtually, some with seniors and some with youth. So things like that are totally within the realm of possibility, but we funded a lot of different things. Like if you look on the Massachusetts Cultural Council page, you can actually see the things that we funded in 2022. We fund a lot of things with MIFA, the CC Pueda. We also fund a lot of Wisteria Hearst, the battle and dress military uniforms exhibition. We also fund like the brick race, the artistic bike racks that the city of Holyoke was doing, different projects here and there. There was a field trip to Old Sturbridge Village with Donahue School. A mural contest for the skateboard park. The Holyoke Public Schools actually had this awesome ethnic studies block party that we helped fund.
That's really cool. Yeah.
And like different individual artists, like Andre Green did something that we also helped fund. Pamela Means did a Power of the Protest song performance in, I think it was Heritage Park. We helped fund Pride. Like it's a whole lot of different things in a whole lot of different places, some inside, some outside. The El Corazon Heart of Holyoke project. One Holyoke CDC did this math trail art installation that I thought was kind of neat. And Attack Bear Press does the annual Holyoke Community Ofrenda, which we help support. Diana Alvarez does amazing work, and we helped support some of that. So there's like a huge range of different projects. And I'd like to say that no project is too small. Like sometimes folks are like, well, I only need like $200 to do this thing. Like you should apply. Sometimes, I mean, we always get more, we usually get anywhere from like twice as much money to 3 times as much money as we have to give out, because that is sort of the nature of grants. But we want to encourage as many people to apply. Like the mural box paintings, we did those, like we helped fund those. There have been lots of different projects over the years that have just been amazing to see, and they just need a little bit of money to get going. Although I have to say this, because the one thing we won't fund is food. Coco, you knew this was coming, but it's a state regulation. I don't know where it came from, but like no food. So if you're doing like an art reception, right, and you need money to like hang the prints, and it's going to be in a public space and people are going to come see it, great, that sounds totally fundable. But then snacks, we can't fund the snacks because the state says we can't fund the snacks.
Yeah,
I know, what kind of reception doesn't have snacks? But Coco,
as long as the rest is taken care of, it's okay.
Right. I know snacks are important though. Like snacks will sometimes get.
Yeah, there've been I don't think people realize how many of the happenings in Holyoke are backed by the Holyoke Local Cultural Council. And like Anne was saying, we don't do we do continuous funding, but the idea is not to fully fund things forever. So if you think that getting a grant from the Cultural Council can help you get a project moving, and you may need support once or twice, you may need support to expand it, it's the perfect opportunity for you. And I definitely encourage people who've never applied and have an idea. And I'm talking about people too who like they're already doing this kind of thing on their own. Maybe they're paying for it by themselves, but to take it to the next level, if they approached the library and got a space and had a little extra funding to get those bigger art boards to do, public art, or if they could buy so much in supplies to do a group event where everyone can take part, this is definitely the kind of grant they want to apply for, because, supplies are expensive, but you also can't get your name out there and you can't get your work out there if you don't have the tools to put it together. So this is definitely a great opportunity. Like Anne was saying, if someone, just because you only need $200 to do a project, that's not a problem. You should apply. If that's what's holding you back, you absolutely must apply for this grant.
Yep.
And also I feel having the back of the Holyoke Local Cultural Council as part of a support for your event, your activity, and the engagement you are providing for the community is something that also can help a lot to build up on that community engagement that can have them to appreciate and see how these efforts are benefiting in different ways, different activities happening in our city, and for them to actually continue doing these activities in a cyclic way. And with this also comes another point that I will love to reiterate, because sometimes when we talk about funding, there's a lot of things that they need to be understood. In this case, the funds provided by the local cultural council are provided as a refund, right, of the expenses that are made for any of these activities submitted.
Yes, but we do have a thing called a third-party payment, and I'm glad that you mentioned this, because I always like to bring this up, because often people are like, but the reason I'm applying for a grant is because I don't have the money to pay for it myself, which I get. And so basically, we have the ability to do what's called a third-party payment. So here's how this works. Traditionally, in fact, almost every single cultural council in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is what's considered a reimbursement. They did a couple of places where they did like a trial thing with direct payments, and results were mixed, I suppose. But the way that this works is, in the most traditional sense, you would submit your receipts and get paid back. But in a third-party payment, so for example, let's say I was hosting an arts festival and I hired both of you as participants with the arts festival. Each of you would create an invoice and send it to me, and then I would include that invoice with the reimbursement paperwork, and everybody gets this. It's available on the website, but when you get your award letter, you also get all of this paperwork, so you got to hang on to that stuff. So all that stuff is in there. So you would fill out that reimbursement paperwork, check off third-party payment, send those invoices in, and then the city of Holyoke, well, I mean, the treasurer would work her magic, right, and fill out the form and do the data entry, and it would go to the city auditor, and the city auditor would send each of you checks directly, so that I would not have to pay you and then wait 6 weeks, because these often take about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks for you to get paid, which can be a significant hurdle. Like if you're doing a $1,000 or $2,000 project and you lay out $2,000 of your own money on credit, like that's kind of terrifying. So this third-party payment is a way to be able to get everybody paid without also putting yourself at like financial risk or financial harm or any of that. And if people get grants and are not sure how that works, get in touch with me and I will walk you through it, because that's part of one of the things I do as treasurer.
For this year, while all the information is available at the website and links are available in this story, is there any other ways that public can access to this application, or even get to consult with any of the members of the local cultural council for any questions or basically any consulting that they may have about some ideas?
Well, we have often had like a information session. We'll have like one information session usually in the fall, and then people can ask questions. Our Facebook page allows interaction, obviously, so if people have questions, they can contact us there. I'm pretty easy to find because I'm on the city council, so all my contact information is on the holyoke.org website. But generally, we're all available for questions or, any kind of guidance towards whatever people need. From what I understand, there's not an existing paper application, but I think we can get one.
Yeah, what I was going to say is we actually do, and it is very rare. We almost never get paper applications, but we do accept paper applications in addition to online applications. We vastly prefer online applications because these are a matter of public record, and this very much streamlines the process. And I know that sometimes like reliable internet and getting on computers can be a challenge and can be an impediment. There are different places where you can get public access, but we do accept paper applications in addition to online applications. And the way you would get a paper application is that you have to request a copy of the application, either from Coco or from Neve, who is our chair. And so this is all done through the mayor's office. So if you need a paper application, we can get you one. It involves reaching out, and the time to do that would be now because applications are due on October 17th. And there is no extension of the deadline. That is state set and firm.
And while the deadline is October 17th, the events can be held anytime throughout the next year. Well, the remaining of 2022 and throughout 2023.
Only 2023.
Only, okay.
Yeah. So this is the one tricky business about this particular grant application. If you have a 2023 project, the time to apply is now. If you have a 2022 project, think about doing it in 2023 and applying for funding. So anytime between January 1st and December 31st, 2023, that is the eligible period for funding. I made the face. I'm so sorry. I was like, no. Close.
Perfect. So this is the time to apply and submit proposals for arts and cultural projects happening in the city of Holyoke. And the deadline is October 17th. And the website is available here on our description for this publication. And any additional information you would like to offer to the public?
I would just like to reiterate that if people do need paper applications, I can definitely get some together and possibly make them available through the mayor's office. We haven't had a lot of requests for them yet, but I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't have them. You know, there's no reason why people shouldn't apply if that's what's holding them back, you know. And I'm pretty old school. I kind of wouldn't mind a paper application, so I get it.
Yeah. It is eventually going to disappear as an option. Like, we've been hanging on to it in Holyoke, but the sense is that eventually it will shift to an all online application. So that's something to think about for 2024. But I would encourage folks to go to the website, read up on what it is, start thinking about applying, and don't leave it till the last minute. It is tempting to be like, oh, I'll do this later. They ask you to register for an account. So you register for an account. The best thing to do is to write it. If you're writing it in like a Word document, write it in a Word document first and then copy and paste it into the online application, because sometimes the application will time out and you will lose all of your good work and it will be very frustrating.
That's a very good tip, Anne. I'm happy you brought that up.
Yeah, I always like to mention that because, like, they don't always tell you that your work is going to get eaten, but it also means that you have a document of it so that if you want to do that project again, you don't have to start from the ground up. You can just say, okay, this is what we did last year. Here's what our budget actually looked like, from there. And I mean, sort of the big takeaway on this is you should apply for a Holyoke Local Cultural Council grant. The chances are pretty good. We have a larger allocation than usual, and I can't wait to read your application. I love getting this snapshot of cool stuff that's happening in Holyoke. We have so many artists and like cultural innovators and people doing awesome stuff in the city. And if you're already doing some rad things and you just need some money to help make it easier to do it, now's the time. You should apply.
And thinking about the allotment of monies for this year, $63,000, I think it covers a good amount of multiple options and opportunities for engagement in cultural and artistic projects that could be of benefit. Because also by utilizing all these funds, it shows the state that the community is engaged, that it's really taking advantage of this benefit and utilizing this fund, so that way there could be possibly more available in upcoming years, right?
Right? That's the hope. And I should also mention that people can apply for more than one. You are not restricted to applying only for one cultural council grant. So if you are doing a couple of awesome things over the course of the year, apply for each one of those awesome things. As long as it meets the standards, as long as it has public benefit, apply. Because the worst that's going to happen is we don't fund you, which I mean, we try to fund a little bit to as many qualified projects as we can. Your chances, I mean, I don't want to guarantee everybody funding, but your chances are very good and you should apply.
Yeah. And there are really just so many different projects going on. And we get proposals from people who, like Ann said, are on multiple applications because maybe they work for a creative organization and maybe they're also trying to work on a project on their own. So that's not a problem at all. And it's always nice to see people with all their creativity coming to the table with everything from Zoom events to teach art to kids, to
shows, to innovative programming and
things outdoors, things indoors. I mean, it's amazing the creativity that comes out of the city, and it's really nice it's nice to be a part of it. And the same as Anna, it's a really fun time to be reading the applications, and we're all together discussing them and, reviewing them and making sure they meet the criteria. And it's just fabulous.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I would encourage people to think broadly about different things that have been out of your reach before. Like if you do an annual concert and you've never had the money to hire an ASL interpreter, now's the time, right? If you're doing an event in English and you're like, oh, if only we had simultaneous interpretation in Spanish, now's the time. Hire people, pay them well. Like, let's do it.
So the opportunities are plenty, and it's just a matter of getting creative and taking the initiative and apply for this opportunities for grants by the Holyoke Local Cultural Council. And once again, the deadline is October 17th, and the website is available in the description of this story. So, well, Ann Kocayne, thank you so much for all the work you do with the Holyoke Local Cultural Council and for providing this information for the public.
Oh, thanks for having us. It's good to share it.
I love doing this every year. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you for helping signal boost this. And like, I look forward to reading your application too. Everybody should apply.